Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast by Focus on the Family Singapore. In each podcast, we'll be tackling questions that parents are asking about family life, parenting, work life, and so much more. So join us on this journey of discovery together.
Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast. My name is June and I'm your host for this episode. In today's competitive and fast-paced world, it can be quite a tall order for parents to stay calm and collected when juggling work and family life. Very often, perhaps even without us knowing, we may carry some of the stress and tension that we experience from work into our very homes. So in today's episode, we are going to explore how we can make our homes a calmer and more inviting space for our kids. And I'm really excited to welcome our special guest for today, Ted. Ted is married to Jolene, and together they own and run a children's bookstore called Toby's Trove. So welcome to the ParentNet podcast, Ted.
Thank you, June. I can share a little bit more about Jolene and I and our family.
Sure.
Jolene and I have been married for about close to 6 years now. We have 2 children. Our son is 5 this year. We have a foster daughter as well. She recently turned 18 months. The bookstore, interestingly, is named after Tobias, our son. People actually always reach out to me calling me Toby. Are you Toby? It's like, no, I'm not Toby. Toby's my son, and this is the reason why we started this bookstore. We really love to read. No surprises there. We enjoy being out in nature as well.
So I must admit that when I first reached out to you, Ted, I had to constantly check myself. Wait a minute, is it Ted or Toby? So please forgive me if I suddenly used the wrong name in this podcast. Yeah, so thank you for your wonderful introduction. And I thought a good place to start is actually at your bookstore. So since you're the owner of a beautiful and quaint children's bookstore tucked away in Roxy Square, can you share with us your top tips on how we can make the physical spaces in our home calm, welcoming, and perhaps a little fun for our little ones?
That's a good question. I think the first thing that comes to mind would probably be about visual clutter. So visual clutter is, just imagine there's a lot of things around, maybe on the floor, on the sofas, on the table. These things we find, even as adults, tend to help us be negatively affected. Our mood gets affected in a messy environment. And even as young children, they do get affected by the environment as well. So as parents with young children, it's of course challenging to have the place neat and tidy every day. I'm sure all the listeners will be very familiar if you have young children. Toddlers have a very, very good ability to find the box with the most things and drag them out onto the floor. So it's definitely challenging to keep the place tidy and neat. But it does help to, I guess, give a space that's inviting if the things are in the proper place and in the right space. We usually recommend to have a home for everything. Something that's affordable would be an IKEA box. They come in all shapes and sizes. And get a clear one so you can always put them in and you can always see from outside where your things are at. And the children can also select the toys they want to play and then they can put it back in the boxes after.
Wow, I can see my husband giving you that nod of approval when you said, make sure that everything has a home. So my hubby is the one who's more organized and more into such home organization. He's also the one who encourages the kids to put their things back. So apart from having those boxes where you can put all your toys back in one place, how do you encourage your kids to actually be a part of that keeping and cleaning up after they play?
I think we do encourage by letting them know that each box actually has toys of a specific type. So maybe a train set will be in one box, Lego will be in another box, or maybe cars and figurines will be in another box. So when we're done playing, of course, when you have free play, you would want to have stories and then you mix and match the different things. But say, okay, let's all bring them back to their homes now and then you put them back in the respective boxes. We try to do it regularly. Of course, there will be times when we are rushing and it just be left around. But we do encourage them to keep them in the right place.
Okay, so doing it together with them.
Yes.
And making it like a routine right? Helps them to know that, okay, this is just what we do. We don't just leave it lying around. And I think all these little actions, little habits really help to add up in creating that fun space, but also clean space where you can actually think and be quiet sometimes and enjoy your family relationships.
Yeah.
So are there other life habits that we should also pay attention to?
I think a calm and inviting space is not just about the physical space, like how it looks, how it's set up, how it's maintained, but also the atmosphere surrounding it. So parents, adults all play a very important role in having that atmosphere. You can start small, I guess, by cultivating a habit of being thankful and to be thankful for what we have, and also remember people who don't have enough. So sometimes when our children receive gifts, of course they're always excited to receive gifts and it's never enough for them. They want more. We'll remind them that, hey, when you receive something new, maybe you can choose to rotate it. So there's something that's already in a box somewhere that you want to keep into a storage, and then we can bring it out next time to play. Or you can also decide, to give it away to somebody that you might find that this will be a blessing to. So that's one thing. Another thing would be to have sufficient time for a fixed bedtime routine. For our family, we do this every day, and it involves a short time of reading together, reflection about the day, and we're Christians, so we pray together and read a short liturgy, and we take the liturgies from this book called Habits of the Household. We read 2 chapters of a storybook Bible, and we let the young one choose another story, whichever from the home library that we have. And we found that having this fixed routine actually helps them to settle down for the day, because children thrive on repetition and predictability, and also give sufficient time, because if you are rushing through the thing, and of course I myself am guilty of that, you just want to move on and we have chores to do, we have so many things to wrap up at the end of the day. But give sufficient time for them, because once they are calm enough, then they feel safe in the environment, and there's also opportunities to have conversations.
Yeah, I really relate to the bedtime routine you mentioned. It's like not just the kids would benefit, right, in having this very consistent routine where they just get to, read with you, pray with you guys, and just unwind. I find that it's very precious. Like, it's the time where they sometimes share things that they've been holding on to. Sometimes, with my kids who are a little bit older than yours, they may actually use that few minutes to share something that's on their heart, or to just ask a question that they've been mulling over. I find that really precious. So I think it's really great that you have these routines and habits of your family that you've been practicing, if and when life gets busier and there are more distractions. When they enter into primary school, there is homework to be done, bags to be packed. There's a bit more of that rush and hustle and bustle. What kind of advice would you give parents who are in that life stage and really finding it hard to carve a space just to slow down and enjoy the moment?
I think a lot depends on the adult taking the lead and being intentional in giving the child space. So not just to be dragged around by a timetable, because there's a lot of things to be done even for children. They have school, they have other things. But children also need time and space, which goes back to the routine, right? You give them a sufficient time to wind down for the day. As a parent, I have to constantly remind myself to slow down and keep my mood in check, because our children can feel when we're rushing through something. And we have a routine of 2 Bible stories and another storybook. Sometimes they want more stories. And, where do we draw? They can have one more, up to 5 and 6. Sometimes it goes on really long. And we're halfway through a chapter book. So I think it's important to take cue from the child to have a bit of attention to have the space. And of course, it's up to parents' discretion and balance that. It's when they feel safe and not rushed through that they are more open to talk about their feeling and talk about other things, deeper conversations if they reflect about the day, things that happen.
Are there questions that you would sort of keep handy at the back of your mind to help them process their day or just reflect on the things that may have happened?
We sometimes ask, what is one thing that you're thankful for today? One thing that you found hard or sad when you faced with it? And then we'll just go from there.
And if they want to share, they share. But if they don't, then it's also fine, right? There's always another day. I guess as parents trying to cope with our many responsibilities, there is work, ensuring that the household chores are done. Sometimes it's really hard to get into that mind space to be present, like you said. I wonder if you have any tips and advice to share in that area, when you're already so tired and drained from work and you're rushing to prepare dinner, and after dinner is done to get all the dishes cleaned up, right? And then when your child asks for like story time, you're like, oh, I really don't have that energy left. What can we do in that moment to still connect with our children, even when we feel like it's so difficult and so tired?
I think it's important to accept that it's okay not to be okay sometimes. Although we did talk a lot about, as a parent, you need to take the lead, you need to be intentional about it. We are all humans. And it's okay for us sometimes to be not in the right frame of mind. And I think accepting that and being aware of it is the first step. The second step I do actually is to be honest with the kids about how I feel. So if I'm frustrated or maybe I was angry about something that they did earlier that I didn't manage to address because we just wanted to settle some other things along, right? So I would say that, Dada's very frustrated today because of this. And I'd be honest with them and give the opportunity to repair the relationship, and also opportunity for them to say, what was going through their mind when they maybe insisted on something, couldn't transit to maybe going to bed, like getting their pajamas on and stuff like that. We ask more questions and try to understand. And having that second step of admitting to your child how you're feeling, I think takes a bit of courage.
Yeah.
But it is a step of helping me, for personally, it helps me to say to ground myself that I'm in this moment now, I'm feeling like this, and it's my responsibility as a parent to keep that space for the child. So I say, this is what I have now. I'm sorry, I'm frustrated. And this is why maybe I can hear, why do you do this? That's also a way to keep the space safe and inviting and warm for the child to feel loved and cherished, and to help them to calm down for the day.
So even if they have done something, not so good or something wrong, or didn't get to do the next step or to transit from one activity to another well, it sounds like you would take that step first to share your feelings with them, and then it makes it kind of less intimidating for them then to share with you what they were thinking or what they were feeling as well. I think that's such a good space and habit to actually have in your home. How did you come to this point? What helped you to even see that this is necessary?
I think for me, what helped me was after I did it once or twice, I realized that there might be more reasons to the child that is valid than what is immediately apparent at that point in time. And I guess you can call it staying curious or just trying to understand and connect with the child on a deeper level. That genuine intention of having a meaningful connection would take priority. And that's why I felt that, I think after a few times, I realized it was actually very beneficial, not just to me, but also to model it for the kids. That even though things are busy, we need to take time to slow down. We need to take time to be aware of what we're feeling and not just react to situations in life.
Even as I'm talking to you, it feels like you have this very natural ability to hold space, to stay calm. I suppose many people have told you that.
Yeah, and they tell me that I'm maybe a bit too calm.
So even when there's a crisis or a situation, your family can rely on you to be that calm voice, to take a step back and to think about how we want to respond. I think that's such a good mind habit to cultivate. Did you experience such things growing up yourself in your own family of origin? Or was it something that you picked up through books or friends?
I think having a calm disposition is maybe a bit more natural, like innate. But I did learn a lot from different people over the years that sometimes things are not so apparent on whatever you see. There's always a lot of things going on, and human beings are always very complex. Even little human beings can be very complex.
Totally.
Yeah, so even though it seems like, you're just throwing a tantrum over something, actually there's a lot of things that go through their mind that we are not aware of, and feelings that they have that they are slowly beginning to discover. So over time, I learned from different people at work or in different places like church, seek to understand and find out, because making quick snap judgments is something that we tend to do in a very fast-paced environment. Of course, it does help to get things done and to react to a situation if it's urgent, but relationships are not things to be fixed just like that. And there are no quick solutions when it comes to building relationships. So taking a step back, breathing, if you need to talk to someone about it, will help you to get into that space.
I like what you said earlier about staying curious about what's happening in our children. As you mentioned, they are complex little human beings, and also staying curious to ourselves, right? Sometimes we may not fully know what we are thinking or feeling if we did not actually give ourselves space to process and to reflect a little bit deeper. I'm guilty sometimes, of making those snap judgments and thinking that, he threw a tantrum because he wanted this and did not get it, this toy or this book or whatever. But sometimes when we do make space to give the child a little bit of space to share whatever he or she was going through, the things that come out can be surprising. And it often then helps us to respond a little bit more empathetically. Right? Rather than thinking that the child just needs some discipline. So thanks for sharing your tips. Yeah, I think not just about keeping our homes clean, uncluttered, everything has a home, but also keeping our emotions clean, uncluttered, and giving them space to actually have a home in our conversation with our kids. I think that's so good. I'm sure it also helps the kids to be more expressive emotionally. Do you see that?
Yeah. I think over time, our children are more free to say what they think, and we will just accept it as it is, and then we'll slowly work on it and figure out what could be causing that. So whenever maybe Toby or our foster child, she gets upset at something, then we'll ask, why are you feeling like this? Is there anything I can do to help? So much so that now our foster child, whenever Toby cries, then she'll say, Toby cry, why? Toby cry, why? So it's like...
And soon she'll be like, how can I help, Toby?
She's picking up on figuring out what's the underlying cause behind it. Yeah. So I think what you said is good. It's not about just throwing attention because not getting something, but there may be other things that they are thinking about. Maybe something happened in school that reminded them of it, or other reasons.
Indeed, it feels like a journey of not just allowing ourselves room to grow as parents, but also helping our kids explore their inner thought world, right? Their inner thought life, their inner emotions that can sometimes get so easily buried under all the many things that we have to do. Thank you so much, Ted, for spending time with us and sharing your experiences. And I really love hearing how you are so intentional at cultivating this habit with your kids. And I'm sure they will grow up to be so much more in tune with their emotions. Kind of a life skill that maybe has been lost through the years. Maybe in 10 years' time, we can invite you back and see how they progress from here, to become a little bit more expressive as young children and growing tweens. Thank you for sharing your tips and insight. Before we let you go, do you have any last parting words of advice you have for our listeners?
I would always encourage, especially parents, and it even applies to people who are not parents, to keep an open mind and always listen out for what emotions or reasons are driving a certain type of behavior. So I think the quick tip would probably summed up in, let me say, curious, and what people like to say now, no judgment. Withhold judgment and hold space for other people.
I think that applies to all parents and, like you said, even non-parents out there. So thanks for sharing that, and thanks for being with us once again.
Thank you.
So listeners out there, I hope that you have found the tips and stories shared today useful, and may your parenting journey be a little bit calmer and lighter from here on. For more parenting resources, do visit our website at family.org.sg. And if you'd like to check out Toby's Trove, do look for them at Roxy Square.
We're at Roxy Square, Level 2, Unit 45.
Okay, that's Roxy Square, Level 2, Unit 45. So that's all we have today. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. Do keep tuning in to the ParentNet podcast to learn and grow in your parenting journey.